The Wild West is a region known for its untamed wilderness, bold outlaws, and tough cowboys. The American frontier legends have fascinated us for years, generating innumerable valor, adventure, and mystery stories. However, how much of our perceptions of the Wild West are true? And how much are made up? Myth and reality frequently blended in the Wild West, from the dusty streets of Tombstone to the wild frontier villages. However, many of the Wild West's legends are still as captivating and timeless as they were before the passage of time. What if we told you that some of the Wild West's most lasting myths have historical roots? Are the legends of legendary characters like Annie Oakley, Doc Holliday, and Wyatt Earp not only fantastical? This video will explore the remarkable real-life tales surrounding 7 of the most well-known American frontier legends as we travel through the Wild West. So come along with us as we explore the American West. But first, if you enjoy our content about Native Americans and the Old West, remember to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you will be the first to see our new updates. Thanks for joining us once again. Let's begin. Myra Maybelle Shirley, the mother of Belle Starr, came from a wealthy family that lost everything during the American Civil War. After the war, the Shirley family, who had Confederate sympathies, moved southwest to Texas, where their home became a refuge for outlaws such as Jesse James and the Younger brothers. In an event reputedly occurring on horseback, outlaw and alleged murderer Jim Reed married Belle Starr. After Reed was killed, Starr married Sam Starr, and together they established a cattle rustling operation that quickly gained infamy. Following Sam's death in a firefight, Belle Starr dated dubious individuals such as Bruce Younger and infamous bandit Bluford Blue Duck. Renowned for her skill with a gun and her riding prowess, Starr is said to have engaged in several acts of robbery, theft, and murder, as well as often providing refuge to fugitives. She donned high-top boots, cartridge belts, and 2 revolvers. Yet she insisted on always acting like a lady, even while riding side saddle. In fact, when she was hauled before hanging judge Isaac Parker for horse theft, it is said that her ladylike appeal spared her from the hangman's noose. A few days before turning 41, Starr was attacked while returning home after going to Fort Worth with her partner, Bill July, to appear in court. The Petticoat Terror of the Plains was found face down in the mud. Despite her own son being a suspect, her killer was never apprehended. Belle Starr rests at Younger's Bend, near Stigler, Oklahoma, where a gravestone etched with a horse, a star, and a bell marks her final resting place. When you think of the quintessential gunslinger, Wild Bill Hickok is the first name that comes to mind. A man of many titles: lawman, gambler, scout, showman, and much more. Wild Bill carved his name into the annals of the Wild West through grit and a deadly aim. Born James Butler Hickok in 1837 in Illinois, his early life didn't exactly scream legend. He grew up working on his family farm. He later became a stagecoach driver, but his life would change forever when he headed west to Kansas. Wild Bill first earned his reputation as a Union spy and scout during the Civil War. But it was after the war, during his time as a lawman in places like Hays and Abilene, Kansas, that his fame truly exploded. Hickok had a no-nonsense approach to keeping order. With his twin Colt pistols holstered on his hips, he patrolled the rowdy cowtowns with an iron grip. His sharpshooting skills were legendary. There's a story of Wild Bill taking down 3 men in a single gunfight, each with a bullet square to the heart. Tales like this turned him into a larger-than-life figure, whether exaggerated or true. Beyond his skills with a gun, Wild Bill was a complex character. He was a gambler at heart, spending much of his time in saloons playing poker, which eventually led to his untimely death. In 1876, while holding a pair of aces and eights, a hand now known as the dead man's hand, Wild Bill was shot in the back of the head by a drifter named Jack McCall. It was a dishonorable end for a man who faced countless enemies head-on. Wild Bill Hickok's life was equal parts heroism and controversy. While some saw him as a necessary enforcer of frontier law, others viewed him as a trigger-happy killer. Whatever the truth, his name became synonymous with the Wild West, a symbol of a dangerous and untamed era. Thanks in part to Paul Newman and Robert Redford's legendary performance in the 1969 movies Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid has thrilled viewers for generations. But these two notorious criminals' real lives were as exciting, filled with bold thefts that made them seem almost invincible. Alonzo Longabaugh was born in 1867 in Montclair, Pennsylvania. His moniker, Sundance Kid, was derived from Sundance, Wyoming, where he was jailed for horse theft at 15. Following his release, Longabaugh drifted into a life of crime, gradually building a reputation as a skilled gunman and adept horseman. The turning point in Longabaugh's criminal career came when he met Robert Leroy Parker, better known as Butch Cassidy. Cassidy, born in 1866 in Beaver, Utah, had already established himself as a prominent outlaw and the leader of the Wild Bunch, a gang notorious for their train and bank robberies. The exact circumstances of their meeting are quite sketchy, but their partnership became one of the most infamous in Old West history. They complemented each other perfectly. Cassidy's leadership and planning skills paired well with Longabaugh's marksmanship and daring. The Wild Bunch, also known as the Hole-in-the-Wall Gang, operated primarily in the late 1890s and early 1900s. The gang's name was derived from their hideout in Wyoming's Hole-in-the-Wall Pass, a remote and easily defensible location. The Wild Bunch became notorious for their well-planned and executed robberies, often targeting banks and trains across several states. One of their most famous heists occurred on June 2, 1899, when the gang robbed a Union Pacific Overland Flyer near Wilcox, Wyoming. The robbery was meticulously planned, involving the use of dynamite to blow up the train's safe. The gang escaped with substantial money, and the robbery became legendary. Another significant robbery occurred on September 1900, when the Wild Bunch held up a Great Northern Railway train near Wagner, Montana. The gang netted around $65,000, a staggering sum. These robberies, among others, cemented the Wild Bunch's reputation and led to increased efforts by law enforcement to capture them. As law enforcement intensified their pursuit, the Wild Bunch began feeling pressure. By the early 1900s, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid decided it was time to leave the United States. Along with Sundance's companion, Etta Place, they fled to South America in 1900, seeking refuge in Argentina. Cassidy, Sundance, and Etta initially lived a relatively quiet life in Argentina, purchasing a ranch in Cholula, Chubut Province. However, the lure of their criminal past proved too strong. They soon resumed their outlaw activities, robbing banks and trains across South America. Their most notable heist occurred in 1901 when they robbed a payroll convoy in Bolivia. The exact details of their demise remain shrouded in mystery. The most widely accepted account suggests that on November 8th, Cassidy and Sundance were cornered by Bolivian authorities in San Vicente. After a fierce gunfight, it is believed that both men were killed. However, no definitive proof such as bodies or photographic evidence, has ever been produced, leading to ongoing speculation and numerous theories about their ultimate fate. Billy the Kid, originally named Henry McCarty, but later known as William H. Bonney, had a challenging early life influenced by family and the wild American West. Born around 1859, he took the name Bonney from his mother Catherine's family and was raised by her partner, William Antrim, after his biological father disappeared. Around 1865, Billy and his brother traveled west with their mother and Antrim, settling in Indiana. By 1870, they had moved to Wichita, Kansas, and later continued westward along cattle trails. In 1873, Catherine and William Antrim officially married and made their home in New Mexico Territory, while his stepfather toiled away in the mines for long stretches. Young Billy and his brother Joe enjoyed their days attending school, playing with friends, and helping their mother, Catherine. Catherine took in boarders to make ends meet, and their family became beloved community members. Sadly, Catherine's health began to fail, and she passed away a year later at just 45 years old. Her husband, busy with mining duties, missed her funeral. Friends' parents stepped in to comfort 13-year-old Billy and 11-year-old Joe as they said their final goodbyes to their mother. When their stepfather returned, he showed no interest in raising the boys, so they were sent to separate foster homes. Joe went to live with an acquaintance who ran a social club, where he was exposed to drinking, gambling, and drugs at an early age, habits that would haunt him until he died at 1930. Meanwhile, young Billy found refuge with the Truesdell family, whose matriarch had been a close friend of his mother's. After this upheaval, Antrim, their stepfather, disappeared from their lives for good. The next summer, Billy left the Truesdell home because of family problems. He moved to a nearby boarding house where he quickly found trouble. One of his roommates stole clothes and guns from a Chinese laundry, and Billy helped hide these things in his room. When the stolen goods were found, Billy was arrested for stealing and thrown into jail. But Billy didn't stay locked up for long. After just 2 days, he squeezed his skinny body up the chimney of the jail and escaped. This was his first of many times running away from the law. The daring escape made it into the local newspaper the next day. It was the first time people saw Billy's name in print, but not the last. Billy set off westward, hoping to find his stepfather, who, as the story goes, gave him some money and advised him to disappear. Moving from job to job, he tried his hand at ranching and got involved in local gambling circles. Due to his youthful looks and mischievous streak, he earned the nickname Kid, a tag often given to young troublemakers of the era. His path crossed with John Mackey, a former U.S. Army soldier turned outlaw, which didn't help Billy's reputation. Together with Mackey's gang, Billy was caught stealing horses from U.S. soldiers. Despite being captured, Billy managed a daring escape during a distraction at a nearby dance, slipping away from the guards and avoiding capture once more. The turning point came when Billy the Kid killed his first man, reportedly in self-defense during a dispute. This act set him on a trajectory towards a life of crime, as he became increasingly involved in cattle rustling and other illegal activities in the Lincoln County War, a bloody conflict fueled by tensions between rival factions vying for economic and political control in the region. A series of audacious exploits and narrow escapes punctuated Billy the Kid's criminal career. They quickly gained notoriety for his quick draw and strategic cunning, earning a reputation as a skilled gunslinger and outlaw. Among his most infamous crimes was the Lincoln County War, where he fought alongside the regulators. a group aligned against the corrupt interests of local businessmen and lawmen. The climax of Billy the Kid's life came with his pursuit by Sheriff Pat Garrett, a former friend turned relentless pursuer. Garrett, appointed Lincoln County Sheriff with a mandate to bring Billy to justice, intensified his efforts to capture the elusive outlaw. In a dramatic turn of events, Garrett eventually tracked Billy the Kid to Fort Sumner, New Mexico. On the night of July 14, 1881, Pat Garrett and his deputies closed in on Billy the Kid at the Maxwell Ranch, where he had sought refuge. In a tense confrontation, Garrett fatally shot Billy the Kid, bringing an end to one of the West's most notorious outlaws. Billy the Kid's death at the age of around 21 marked the conclusion of a short but eventful life defined by violence and rebellion. Annie Oakley, born on August 1860 in Greenville, Ohio, may not have been a killer, but she was arguably the best gunslinger of the 19th century. At 8 years old, she made her first kill, shooting a squirrel from her front porch. Instead of turning to crime like many of our other shooters, Oakley put food on her family's table by hunting and even paid the mortgage on their house with money from the game she sold. When Annie was 15, she beat nationally recognized sharpshooter Frank Butler. Despite the age difference, the two married the next year and remained married the rest of their lives, dying 3 weeks apart. After seeing one of her performances, Chief Sitting Bull adopted her and gave her the name Watanya Cecilia, or Little Sure Shot. In the spring of 1898, when the threat of war with Spain loomed overhead, she told President McKinley, "In case of such an event, I am ready to place a company of 50 lady sharpshooters at your disposal." The outlaws of the Old West should be thankful that she wasn't a marshal. Annie Oakley was the quickest and sharpest draw of the era. If loyalty and skill were the hallmarks of a great gunslinger, Doc Holliday easily earned his place in history. Born John Henry Holliday in 1851 in Georgia, he wasn't always the deadly figure we associate with the Wild West. Doc was a highly educated man who trained as a dentist, a far cry from the saloons and shootouts that would later define his life. But life took a hard turn when Holliday was diagnosed with tuberculosis in his early 20s, a disease that would ultimately shape his fate. Seeking the dry climate of the American Southwest to ease his symptoms, Doc traded dental tools for a six-shooter. His life spiraled into one of gambling, drinking, and violence. Despite his illness, Holliday's quick wit and quicker draw made him a formidable presence in the saloons of Texas and Arizona. He preferred poker over politics and wasn't afraid to settle disputes with lead. Doc's most famous chapter began when he befriended Wyatt Earp. The two became inseparable, and their bond led to one of the most iconic moments in Wild West history: the gunfight at the OK Corral. On October 26, 1881, in Tombstone, Arizona, Doc stood shoulder to shoulder with the Earp brothers as they faced the Clanton-McClory gang. In just 30 seconds, nearly 30 shots were fired, leaving 3 men dead. Doc's fearless presence and deadly aim were crucial in securing victory for the Earps. Despite his heroics, Doc's health continued to deteriorate. He spent his final years in Colorado, where he died at the age of 36. Doc Holliday remains one of the most enigmatic figures of the Wild West. This man faced death every day, whether from tuberculosis or a smoking gun. Wyatt Earp remains one of the most iconic figures of the American Old West, celebrated for his role as a lawman, gambler, and participant in the famous gunfight at the OK Corral. his life and legacy have been subjects of numerous books, movies, and TV shows, which have cemented his place in American folklore. Wyatt Barry Stapp Earp was born to Nicholas and Virginia Ann Earp on March 19, 1848, in Monmouth, Illinois. He grew up in a large family and was the fourth of 8 children. Frequent relocations marked Earp's early years, as his family moved from Illinois to Iowa and then to California during the gold rush. This nomadic lifestyle filled young Wyatt with a sense of adventure and resilience to serve him well in his later years. Despite the family's constant movement, Wyatt's father, Nicholas, ensured that his children received an education, even though it was basic. At the age of 13, Wyatt tried to enlist in the Union Army during the Civil War, following in the footsteps of his older brothers. However, his father intervened and brought him home because he was too young. Despite this setback, Wyatt's adventurous spirit was undeterred, and he continued seeking opportunities for excitement and advancement. In 1870, at the age of 22, Wyatt married Urilla Sutherland, the daughter of a prominent local hotel owner. The couple settled in Lamar, Missouri, where Wyatt took his first steps into law enforcement, serving as the local constable. Tragedy struck, however, when Urilla died of typhoid fever within a year of their marriage. Heartbroken and disillusioned, Wyatt left Lamar and began drifting westward. A mix of legal and illegal activities marked Wyatt's next few years. He was arrested for horse theft in Arkansas, but managed to escape custody. This incident began a pattern in Wyatt's life, straddling the line between law and lawlessness. Despite this rough start, he soon found steadier footing. At 1875, Wyatt's law enforcement career began in earnest when he became a deputy town marshal in Wichita, Kansas. Wichita was a bustling cattle town, and Wyatt quickly earned a reputation for his no-nonsense approach to maintaining order. He was known for his imposing presence and unyielding demeanor, which could make you feel chills run down your spine. However, his tenure in Wichita was cut short when he was involved in a terrible fight with a fellow lawman, leading to his dismissal. Undeterred, Wyatt moved to Dodge City, Kansas, another notorious cow town. In Dodge City, Wyatt joined the police force and solidified his reputation as a formidable lawman. The city was filled with crime, and Wyatt and other notable figures like Bat Masterson and Charlie Bassett worked tirelessly to maintain order. His firearm skill and ability to handle dangerous situations with composure became well known. Dodge City was where Wyatt truly honed his skills and tactics that would later define his career. Wyatt's years in Dodge City were formative. He dealt with drunken cowboys, violent outlaws, and the lawlessness that defined the American frontier. His approach was direct and effective. He was not afraid to use force when necessary, but he also understood the importance of strategy and negotiation. In short, he was bold and very smart. In 1879, Wyatt and his brothers moved to Tombstone, Arizona, drawn by the promise of silver mining opportunities to make cool cash. Tombstone was a booming town and a hotbed of conflict between lawmen and outlaws. Wyatt's brothers, Virgil and Morgan, also took on law enforcement roles in Tombstone. They soon found themselves in a feud with a group of outlaws known as the Clanton-McClory Gang, which led to the famous gunfight at Oakley Corral. The gunfight at the Oakley Corral occurred on October 26, 1881, and lasted a mere 30 seconds, but its impact would be felt for generations. The confrontation involved Wyatt, his brothers Virgil and Morgan, and their ally Doc Holliday, against the Clanton-McClory Gang, consisting of Billy Clanton and brothers Frank and Tom McClory. The shootout left 3 members of the Clanton-McClory Gang dead, while Virgil, Morgan, and Holiday were wounded. Wyatt Earp emerged unscathed, further cementing his legend as a fearless lawman. The aftermath of the OK Corral shootout was far from straightforward. The Earp brothers faced legal challenges and public scrutiny, with accusations of murder and excessive force. However, they were eventually acquitted. The events in Tombstone marked a turning point in Wyatt Earp's life, as he and his brothers sought to avenge the subsequent assassination of Morgan Earp and the wounding of Virgil Earp. Earp's later years saw him drifting through various western boom towns, trying his hand at mining, saloon ownership, and even boxing refereeing. He eventually settled in California, where he died in Los Angeles on January 13, 1929, at 80. Earp had become a living legend by his death, a symbol of frontier justice and rugged individualism. Wyatt Earp's legacy has been immortalized in American popular culture. His life and the gunfight at the OK Corral have been the subject of countless books, movies, and television shows. Films like My Darling Clementine, Gunfight at the OK Corral, and Tombstone have cemented Earp's status as a quintessential Old West hero. Actors like Henry Fonda, Burt Lancaster, and Kurt Russell have portrayed Earp, each adding their interpretation to the lawman's storied life. And with that, we wrap up today's episode. We hope you enjoyed this video. Which story surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments. Thank you for joining us once again. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Native American history, remember to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you will be the first to see our new updates. See you in our next video.